The newest wave of Innistrad Midnight Hunt spoilers has arrived. So today, we're going to be taking a look at some very dark and powerful mythic rares.
The Magic Historian.
Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles. My friends, I hope the day finds you well, or at least better than me, because my ears are really weird today. You know that feel where you think they're gonna pop? So when I'm talking, I don't know if I'm yelling or talking at a normal level. So if there's any volume issues with this video, my apologies. I'm still recovering from yesterday. Now, let us dive in to talking about some crazy Innistrad Midnight Hunt mythic rares. We're starting out with the Lord of the Forsaken, and he's not the only demon that we're going to be taking a look at, but woo! Lordy, lock the cows in the barn, because this guy is a powerful 2 black and 4 for a 6/6 flying trampler. He's gonna fly and trample your face! 1 black, sacrifice another creature, target player mills 3 cards. That feels a little bit weird, just the tiniest bit weird on a gigantic black demon. Being about mill is a little bit odd, admittedly, right? But then when you get to the second ability, it gets a little more clear and a lot more bonkers. Pay 1 life, add a colorless mana. Spend this mana only to cast a spell from your graveyard. So once you get to that, your brain goes, whoa! I remember before I read the second half of that ability, just the part that said, pay 1 life, add a colorless mana, I was like, boom! Are you kidding me? He's like a channel at all times? And then I read the rest of it where it's like, oh, spend this mana only to cast a spell from your graveyard. Okay. All right. Not quite as broken, but still absolutely crazy. You can use that first ability to mill cards into your graveyard and then pay them at a discounted cost if you're using flashback style effects. So a very potent card that admittedly, I don't know how much of a difference it's going to make for standard, but it definitely feels like it could make its way into graveyard matter style decks in modern, or theoretically even into older formats like legacy level. I mean, I don't know that for sure, but the fact that you can convert your life into mana is really powerful. If you can animate this guy out of your graveyard on the second or third turn and you have a whole bunch of stuff loaded, what was that sound? If you had a whole bunch of stuff loaded into your graveyard, then this guy is just going to be nuts. Like if you're at full life, you can spend 19 of it to get 19 colorless mana. You can play artifact spells from your graveyard or just reduce the colorless component of spells all the way down to just paying the actual, like, for example, this guy would only cost 2 black to cast from your graveyard because you could pay 4 life to get 4 mana to cover the 4 there. So ultimately, this card screams power to me, and the artwork is awesome. This demon looks really intense. He's crouched down over, I don't know, some kind of pit or giant cauldron, and he's got all of these chains that are down in the cauldron. And if you actually look on the end of one of the chains, you can see there's like a green, glowing, disembodied hand. So I don't know if this is just like him snacking. This is his idea of chicken McNuggets, you know, where he's just like, bloom, bloom, let's dip them down into the cauldron sauce, and then I'm going to eat me some hands. Or maybe that's just the hand of a creature he sacrificed. But the chains give that concept of, like, tying it to the graveyard, right? It's a really funky card with evocative artwork. I definitely dig it. Now, I said we're going to be talking about multiple demons. The next demon we're going to talk about is actually the flip side of this bishop. So this is Jaren the Corrupted Bishop. 1 black and 2 for a 2/3 human cleric. Whenever Jaren enters the battlefield or another non-token human you control dies, you lose 1 life and create a 1/1 white human creature token. So not too shabby. When he comes in right away, he's going to make you a 1/1. You're going to lose a life, obviously, to balance it out. But right away, you're getting a 1/1. And if you have other humans, boom, when they go, it's also going to generate extra tokens. He's got the ability, 2 mana, target human you control gains lifelink until end of turn, which can include himself, so you can pay 2 mana to give him lifelink, or your tokens, or any other humans. And at the beginning of your end step, if you have exactly 13 life, you may pay 2 black and 4 if you do transform Jaren. And I do like the fact that the demon we just looked at had a casting cost of 6, And this ability has an ability cost of 6, which really does kind of tie it to the demons being like the 6, and 6 casting cost with 6 power and toughness gives you that 666 vibe, which is clearly very demonic. Now, when you take a look at the artwork, you can see Jaren with this kind of exultant look on his face, and he doesn't actually feel like he's a corrupted being. Sure, he's somewhat surrounded in darkness. I love the fact that his robes are arrayed in a somewhat similar fashion to part of the symbol of the Church of Avacyn. Like it's like the bottom half of a Church of Avacyn symbol, which I really dig. And the thing is about the Church of Avacyn is they worshipped Avacyn, and Avacyn was the angel that was set to rule over the world of Innistrad. Not rule over, protect the world of Innistrad, protect humans from being wiped out by vampires and werewolves, to maintain a balance. So you have this church, and it's fallen apart, basically, because Avacyn's gone now. So what happens? You can have all kinds of different reactions. There are going to be some people who are going to be like, we need to step up and be the strength that we have lost through the loss of Avacyn. But you're also going to have other individuals that are going to look to other beings instead. So Jaren, to me, the concept is he's had a loss of faith, and instead of abandoning religion or believing in himself, instead he's chosen the route of finding another greater power, but in this case it's a demon. And when Jaren transforms, that's when you get to see the demon side, and this is Ormondal the Corruptor. So 6/6 flying, trample, lifelink, already feels great. Then you've got sacrifice another creature, draw a card. So that's really potent. You know what I mean? Just boom. Meat grinder, the little 1/1 tokens that you made. Start drawing cards like fiends. Sounds great to me. The flavored text says, "Ah, Jaren, you've been such a faithful, useful insect." That is so cool. The artwork shows Ormondal looking very imposing, standing there, posing in front of Jaren, while Jaren has his hands held up in worship. He's still got the chain that he had in the previous artwork. I love the way that Ormondal is talking to him with absolute disdain, where it's like, you've been faithful and useful, but you're still just an insect to me. Like he wouldn't hesitate to sacrifice Jaren. I mean, ultimately, Jaren is gone, right? Once you transform it, Jaren's gone. So Ormondal, probably a moment later, just reached over, boop, squeezed his head like a melon. Just boop, that's your reward. We've seen that a lot, right? Whenever you're dealing with dark forces, the chance that you're going to lose your life is pretty high. And Ormondal, if you didn't already know, is a demon who was trapped initially inside of the Hell Vault. He got freed when the Hell Vault got destroyed, and he would do things like physically possess the wives and things like that of priests and have them running around committing atrocities, and nobody knew that these individuals were possessed by a demon, so they ultimately dealt with the perpetrator as if they were the ones responsible for it. So Ormondal is a terrible demon, which obviously makes him a great demon, because demons should be terrible. And I absolutely love the concept behind this card. It is really well executed in my opinion. Let us move on, my friends, to the next mythic rare we have to talk about. And yet again, another black mythic rare. This episode does have a heavy black mythic rare theme. However, we're going to show something that is the opposite side of this darkness, and then we're going to end it off with mono green goodness, because after all, I do love me some mono green goodness. Now, we've got the Meat Hook Massacre. First of all, what a great name. What an evocative, flavorful name. And this card is very potent and a bit weird, because in some ways it feels like it functions like a sorcery. But let's get into it. 2 black and X. When the Meat Hook Massacre enters the battlefield, each creature gets -X until end of turn. So that's where it really genuinely feels like a Wrath of God board wipe style spell, right? It's got that sorcery feel to it. But that's not all this enchantment does. It's the first thing it does, but it also does this. Whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses a life. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, you gain a life. So basically, after this massacre goes off, if you each had 5 creatures, then your opponent's going to lose 5 life, and you're going to gain 5 life. So it does have that kind of nice symmetry, but it also makes you wonder, where's the life coming from? Are we kind of like drinking the blood of the massacred? It's pretty intense. And speaking of intense, this artwork, take a look at this artwork. In the foreground, you can see a hand on a giant meat hook. And you can see all of these meat hooks arrayed as well. Plenty of room for plenty more people. And in the background here, you can see a butcher who is hard at work hacking up most likely people. So this is a very intense concept. You essentially bring this butcher into existence who goes around hacking people up, but also at the same time doesn't exist as part of the enchantment. It's weird and mystical. Is it like a spirit being that just appears at moments in the darkness or whatever? Boom. He's just there with his cleaver. Whack, whack, whack. Does it create multiple iterations of this, like servants of the enchantment? Because this is a legendary enchantment. This isn't a run-of-the-mill whatever enchantment, right? So I like thinking of it as there's actually servant beings that are like infused into the enchantment. This is a very powerful mythic that is going to see some serious play, in my opinion. The board wipe aspect of it, with all these bonuses tacked in, I mean, we already see running around right now a bunch of white-black decks that use cards like this to go, whenever I lose a creature, you lose a life, I gain a life. And this is a natural fit for decks like that. If you're playing a deck that sacrifices your own creatures, well, boom. Every time you lose a creature, your opponent's going to lose a life. And if you play a bunch of stuff that destroys your opponent's creatures, this is just going to ramp up your life gain. So it's just win across the board. This card is great. The name is great. The flavor is great. The ability is great. It's a home run as a Magic card. Next up, we have the Lightness in the Dark. The Sunstreak Phoenix. This is a cool card. 2 red and 2 for a 4/2 flyer. If it's neither day nor night, it becomes day as Sunstreak Phoenix enters the battlefield. Whenever day becomes night or night becomes day, you may pay 1 and a red. If you do, return Sunstreak Phoenix from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So this is a very interesting spin on the Phoenix return that is tied in specifically to the day-night cycle, which makes this Phoenix unique, right? I do like the concept behind this, and I love the fact that it's just this gigantic bird of flyer. Bird of flyer, because it's a flying firebird. All right, that's pretty good. Anyways, it's this massive firebird soaring through the sky, and you can see that it's soaring above the Celestis. Like, its existence is tied into what's going on Innistrad. Because if you don't know the story right now for Innistrad Midnight Hunt, what's going on is the nights are getting longer and longer. The days are getting shorter and shorter. Vampires and werewolves are becoming more powerful because of this elongated night. And the Celestis, which is depicted in the background here, is an ancient site of worship for old school like nature rituals that is tied in to saving Innistrad. And there is some murmurs that maybe Emrakul being in the moon has something to do with the lengthening night as well. So who knows what else will come of that. Obviously, it's not going to feature in this set whatsoever. But if you want to know more about the Innistrad Midnight Hunt backstory, I am doing lore videos covering it over on my Fantasy Geographic channel. So I'll leave a link over there if you want to check it out and get up to speed with what's going on. But I like thinking that this is a Phoenix that hasn't been seen in like hundreds and hundreds of years. It hasn't been seen since the days of the Dawnheart Coven. And the Witch's Coven, like, reawakening has caused this Phoenix to reappear. And it is like an omen, a portent of the revitalization of Innistrad. That's how I like to interpret this. We don't know yet because it hasn't come up in the story. But to me, this is a really, really cool concept. And speaking of cool, let's take a look at a green card because Papa loves green. Primal Adversary, the green adversary, is a wolf. All the other beings are like bipedal humanoids. Well, I mean, I guess you could consider the spirit one to be that depending on your definition, but it's the spirit of a bipedal humanoid. But with green, the Primal Adversary is literally just a wolf. 1 green and 2 for a 4/3 trampler. Already, Yes, please. I would play that all by itself. 3 mana for a 4/3 Trampler is enough to get my attention, but it gets way better. When it enters the battlefield, you may pay a green and 1 any number of times. When you pay this cost 1 or more times, put that many +1/+1 counters on them. Then up to that many target lands you control become 3/3 wolves with haste that are still lands. This is bonkers, man. Like, even if you just pay the extra mana, like 2 mana, 1 more time, this is going to be a 5/4 Trampler, and it's going to animate one of your lands into 3/3 Hasty Wolf. That is not to be sneezed at. This is really, really cool. This is a card that I am super hyped about. So this guy to me feels like, you might not understand when you look at him immediately how bonkers he is, but this guy is going to take some names and leave a wake of bodies behind him. I'm totally down. And the artwork looks awesome. You've just got the adversary, and he is like coming out into the hallway. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that the adversary cycle is all located in the same building, and there are tie-ins in each piece of art. Maybe we'll cover that in another video. If you'd be interested in seeing the connections between the adversaries, let me know. That way I can gauge the level of interest. But either way, that covers all of the spoiler cards we have to talk about today. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you liked the video, then like the video. If you love what I'm doing, jump on my Patreon and support the channel. Thanks to all my patrons for having my back, and I will see you guys next time.